I want to start my discussion with the slogan Allahu Goyatuna, Qurani Dusturuna. Allahu, Quran, Allahu, Quran, Allah is our creator and the Quran is our constitution. That is the basis of this, my topic. The framework, legal framework and institutional framework for the protection of religion of the girl child or of the Muslimah. But however, before we look into the legal framework vis-a-vis the provisions of the Nigerian 1999 Constitution as amended, we should know as Muslim that our constitution is the Quran. When Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was leaving the service of the act, he said he's leaving us with two things, which is which are Quran and Sunnah, the Kitab and the Sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. On that note, as Muslim, as an hijabi, we adore our hijab. Hijab is a symbol of boldness. When Hajia Fatima called yesterday, adding this topic to the discussion, and I said to her, hijab itself is a symbol of, or ought to be a symbol of boldness. Why? Because the Quran is our constitution. Allah is our protector. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is our guardian, is our model. But however, in every country, any society we find ourselves, there must be some people or some authority talking about the provisions of the Quran that says Atullah wa atu Rasul. Obey Allah, obey the Prophet, and those in authority. Who are those in authority? The president, the governors, the area council's chairman. We need to obey them. But however, Nigeria as a country, we have our constitution, which is the 1999 constitution as amended. So, because of time, I'm going to break down this discussion just into two headings. The first one is the legal framework. The second one is the institutional framework for the protection of religious rights vis-a-vis the usage of hijab. The first is the Constitution, 1999 Constitution. Then we have what we call fundamental human rights. My dear sisters and mothers, this should not be alien to us, because as a citizen of Nigeria, we have a chapter that is actually dedicated to what we call fundamental human rights, particularly Section 38, Sub 1 of the 1999 Constitution that reads thus. Every person shall be entitled to freedom of expression, including, sorry, let me go back. Section 38, Sub 1 guarantees the rights of Nigerians, including the Muslimah, be it a young girl, an adult, or an old person. Nigerian citizen to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion as follows. Meaning, as a Muslimah, you have that right to express yourself religiously, to express your ideology as a Muslimah. But however, at times, I look at it from the perspective of understanding that religion that we want to express as Muslimah. Some of us don't really tend to accept it wholeheartedly. Yesterday, I was with some students from Babalada Area Council, secondary school within that vicinity. And I said, before you can actually adore yourself in the hijab, that means you must be what? You must be a Muslim. And a Muslim is that person that actually upheld to the teachings of Islam, meaning we are practicing Islam. And the meaning of Islam is total submission to the wills of Allah, willingly or unwillingly. The willingly is the provisions of Allah that we are comfortable with. Unwillingly are those provisions that we are not really comfortable with, which hijab falls part of them. There are some of our young sisters, and I told them that fortunately we have our young sisters here. There are so many distractions in the society today that's actually dividing us from upholding the teachings of Islam, particularly wearing the hijab. So if you have this freedom, if you have this fundamental human right that is actually protected by the Constitution, then what is stopping us from adhering to the provisions of the Quran? that is an angle that we need to look at seriously. Because at times you find out that some of us mothers we have made a choice that, oh, my daughter, she's going to attend a Muslim primary school, Muslim secondary school, and inshallah Muslim university. But believe you me, after holiday, maybe let's take a few short holiday from the secondary school, and she steps out of the secondary school. By the time she gets to her house and they are going for a gathering, she's no more with her hijab. The least you can see her with is a cap. And her parents are there. At times you want the school to do magic. Islamically want them to put this Islamic ideology in them. But yet as parents, we are not complimenting the efforts of the school. Vis-a-vis their appearance. So talking about legal framework, we have Allah has given us that right to practicalize those provisions, particularly in Quran 24. That is Surah to Nur verse 31. Then Surah to Hazab Quran 33 verse 59 as referenced by the keynote speaker. These are provisions that actually, we've been reading them time in memorial. But as Muslima, the distraction in the society is actually debarring us from putting all this thing into practice. Some of us is our occasion that determines our appearances. We are here today because it's World Hijab Day, we wear our kimar. But when it's another occasion, you see that perhaps we're on our scarf, we're on our short skirts, and what have you. So the constitution has given us that protection as Muslim to exhibit our ideas, our religion, as it may be. Then another legal framework or another act that gives the Muslim woman that freedom of expression is the Right Child Act of 2003. And when you look at the provisions of the Child Right Act, particularly in Article 7, Sub 1, 2, and 2, 3, and 4, is a repetition of the provision of Section 31, Sub 1 of the 1999 Constitution, talking about that every child has a right of freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Parents, where applicable, legal guidance shall provide guidance and direction in the enjoyment of the right to religion for a child. Here, when I look at this provision, I look at it that at times we will take our words to in Nasara owned schools, and they will compel them that no, you have to join the other faith. If we fall victim of such school, we can make do with this section and call the school to order. For the fact that although some of our Muslim sisters and brothers will tell us that why must you take to your child to a Nasara owned school where you have Muslim schools around? But that does not really give them that leverage to compel our children to practice the religion that ordinarily they ought not to. So Section 7, Sub 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the Child Right Act has given the Muslima that right, that protection to exhibit the religion of our choice, particularly Islamic religion. Then thirdly is the African Charter on Human and People's Rights Act. Article 8 of this act actually protects the Nigerian citizen to express herself or himself of any religion, particularly Islamic religion. So we don't really have that excuse that in my office I'll be intimidated. In my office, when I was actually transferred or posted to Nigerian Law School Kano campus, when I got to the campus, I was with my white hijab, a little, very long actually. Let me not even call it a little long. And the dean, students, they have the student affairs dean, Mrs. Balogun. When she cited me, that, why are you coming? Why are you coming with this big hijab? No, we don't take it. I say, ma, I'll look into the hijab that is recommended by Nigerian Law School. But for today, please, I want to do my registration. I continue doing my documentation and like that. And I made the MSA. What is the length of the hijab that is allowed by Nigerian Law School if this is big? And so I said, oh, wow, this is actually big. I said, okay, let me walk around and get a sizable hijab that will fit into this institution. Where I'm going with this discussion is this. At times you have some organization, some establishment, particularly even the medical, they have their size, that you can actually use when you are in field. In that instance, we need to work around it in a very good manner, because most of the cases you have, or some of the cases you have today, is the attitude of the Muslimah towards the authority. Towards the authority. And in so doing, you have some sisters that ordinarily they are very good, they ought to be medical doctors, knowing fully well that we are short of medical personnel. They're like, since they don't allow hijab, I'm not going to study medicine, I'm going to go for another course. And at so doing, we miss that opportunity. So we still need to talk to our young girls. When you have chosen a particular profession, let's look at what is obtainable in that profession. With time, you walk in line and change the narrative. But it's not something that we can have it all at once. Sister Fridaus was able to do it because she was very, very bold. And alhamdulillah, there were people around her that was able to work with her. But there's some selective professions lately that they have their kind of specification. So we need to work in line. Like University of Abuja, you have banking and finance. They allow sky blue hijab. So as a Muslim, you can't just come there, sky blue. Me, I can't use sky blue because sky blue is so shouting. I will use black because black is the recommended color. Then you don't want to take that course. So these are issues that we need to understand and study the field that we find ourselves. That is as far as the legal framework is concerned. Then secondly is the second heading, which is the institutional framework for the protection of religious rights in Nigeria. Which institution can actually help us to protect this our freedom? The first one is the judiciary. Remember, I've mentioned section 38 sub 1, which gives birth to freedom of religion. But all those provisions are there until the court breathes life into them. That is when you see those sections working. Now I'm going to refer us to the case of Lagos State government and others against Aishat Abdul Karim. I think that was the first classical case on hijab in Nigeria. It went as far as Supreme Court, and Supreme Court is the apex court. So once the Supreme Court give ruling that the hijab is allowed, there is nobody, no court, no judicial officer, no law school staff that can actually tell you that no, you are not allowed to use the hijab. And that is where this slogan of hijab is a symbol of boldness comes in. Once we have all this authority at our fingertips, then we should be able to defend ourselves in the public, in any establishment we find ourselves. So the first institution is the judiciary, and the Supreme Court has spoken. There is nobody, no any authority that is above Supreme Court. Then the second body is the National Human Rights Commission. That's your customer is there. So when we have sisters that are being victimized, if they don't have that money to go to hire a lawyer to represent them in the court, they can approach the National Human Rights Commission. Then, of course, Public Complaints Commission as well. Then we have Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and the last one on the institution is the police. Then, however, we have the NGO or the civic society, like Murik. Murik has been doing a very wonderful job. It's a pro bono service that Murik has actually helped us to hear our voice even beyond Nigeria. Then lastly is the Hijab Right Advocacy. It's an NGO that actually is dedicated to help Muslim girls, young girls, students to protect this right as captured by the Constitution. So when you have cases of victimization in the office, in your place of work, in schools, majorly secondary schools, alhamdulillah, in the northern part, we don't really have much problem. But go down to the southwest, south, there's a whole lot of problem concerning female using the hijab. So when you have issues like this, you can now go to Murik or Hijab Right Advocacy. On internet, you can find Hijab Right Advocacy or even Murik. Where you have issues like that, you can write them privately. Then they'll escalate the situation and the necessary action will be taken. So this is how far, so far, on the legal and legal framework and institutional framework for the protection of religious rights. But however, as I said earlier, Allahu Gayatina, Quran, Dusturuna, Allahu Yatina, Quran, Dusturuna. Allah is our Lord and Quran is our constitution. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.